and welcome to another podcast episode of Nappy Changing and Brand Building with me, Laura Crawford, CEO and founder of Mama Bamboo. And today I'm delighted to be joined by the brilliant Emma Board of Emma Board PT. She's a fully qualified pre- and postnatal personal trainer and nutritionist, really helping us to work out how to safely, in those early days of motherhood and pregnancy, and how to re-engage with our bodies after we've had our babies. So, hi, Emma.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Um, First of all, I'd love to know a little bit about how did you get started with your business and why the emphasis for you on pre and postnatal training?
So going way back originally, I actually trained in acting and theatre arts, and I always wanted something on the side of that, and fitness was a huge passion of mine. So in all my breaks, I used to do all the courses and trained up to be a personal trainer on the side of that. And then a few years later, I just realised that actually my heart was in the training and the physical well-being, and so I kind of moved away from the acting area and put everything into personal training and built that up. And then the focus came into pre and postnatal training because a lot of people around me didn't know anything about training through pregnancy and beyond. And I actually had a group of girls, one girl in particular, she said to me, can you do a group class for me? We've had babies and we really just want to bring the babies along. Would that be okay? And you train us when they're around. I was like, of course. And it grew really quickly. And I had loads of these antenatal groups getting in touch, asking to do it because I had a space and was more than happy to have the babies around, and it just grew from there. And there wasn't really that much. I think we must be talking 10 years ago. There wasn't a huge amount of knowledge about exercise pre and post, and not a lot of options to bring your babies to work out. So it was kind of a really good market, and it was also really fulfilling seeing new mums being able to spend some time on themselves and make themselves feel better without the stress of childcare.
Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? In those early days, it's very hard actually. Just leaving the house to go to playgroup is a little bit of a stress. It feels even harder if you think you have to leave the house without the baby. That involves bringing in someone to take care of the baby for half an hour, possibly expressing milk, trying to plan how that baby's being. It's a big deal if you can't take the baby with you.
Yeah.
Also, I've noticed you have quite a lot of online courses which help ladies to actually exercise at home. Have you found that has really expanded since those days of COVID and people being home more?
Yeah, I think COVID changed a lot for my work, and still now so much has changed. Previously, you wouldn't even have thought to log on and do a workout, or I mean, there were videos and there were workout videos. That was a thing, but actually, I did a lot of live PT sessions. So instead of them having to leave the house, we can just have baby asleep upstairs and log on when we know it's their nap time and do their session. Yeah. And my on-demand library is another option that a lot of people get involved in because they can do workouts any time of the day that suits them, and there's a vast range of pregnancy workouts, postnatal workouts, and I often can guide and send links to specific videos that would work for them considering where they are in their journey. So that's really helped, and I think the whole point of it is that we need to be flexible. We need to be able to work as and when we can. We don't know the baby's going to sleep specifically at this time. If you put your gym kit on in the morning and you know you've got the option of working out, you're more than likely to do it if you've got access to it, as opposed to it being a big chore. Make it simple, and that's how I found it really works.
Yeah, I noticed on your library, a lot of your videos are also quite short, which is brilliant. That kind of 15 minutes, that's enough of a workout in a day. It's better than doing nothing, which is what I did. FYI, I did very little for my first 2 years, and then started to re-engage with it. But it's lovely. If I'd known and had access to that kind of 15 minutes in my own home, I think I'd have re-engaged with exercise a lot earlier, because it's available and you can squeeze 15 minutes in.
Yeah, if you put your baby down, like, you would like to think you've got at least 15 minutes just to get moving. And you know what? All it takes is 15 minutes, like even less than that, just to get the body moving. Give yourself a little bit of time and energize yourself. And I think that really helps people with their mental health as well as physical, which I think is a huge thing right now. Like, not even right now, I think especially postnatal as well, like just giving yourself a bit of care and empowering through being able to spend some time on yourself. I think that's really crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know the benefits of exercise physically, but there's also the mental load. In those early days, you are fairly sleep deprived and you've stopped being just you. You're now mummy. And it's nice to re-engage with just you and do something for yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also the reason why I did the 15-minute ones is because it's achievable, because you can say to yourself, I'm going to make an hour is overwhelming. It feels like no way can I find myself an hour. But 15 minutes where you know the exercise is going to be worthwhile, specifically for you at that point in your time, and where you are, maybe you're just rebuilding your core strength or you want a bit of an upper body, it's there for you. And the fact that it is short means that you can achieve it, and being able to achieve something is really positive in a day where you're consumed by a million other things.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really worth noting as well that in that 50 minutes, you can focus on something like your upper body strength. You can focus, though, your exercises, a lot of them deal with some of the medical issues of pre and postnatal. So we have a lot of ladies these days that talk about postnatal incontinence, pelvic floor muscles, diastasis recti. These are medical conditions completely related to being pregnant or having just given birth, that actually the types of exercises that you're promoting can help to either avoid or improve in a shorter time period. Do you have a lot of people that come to you with these specific issues now?
Yeah, a lot. And the first thing I ask anyone after they've had a baby, they want to return to exercise, is whether they've had their core muscles checked, and if they have any discomfort walking, all those things that need to be addressed before you can even start to move, because it's still an issue that I have people still that they don't know, oh, what are you talking about? What is this gap? What is it? And it's really important that people are educated on it, and that's why I've got specific videos on there that start to rebuild the core from the inside out. It's not just a case of let's go straight into doing crunches or let's start, jumping around like a crazy person, because that is the worst thing you can do. And so, like, when I have someone new or someone I see sign up that they message me and they say they're freshly postnatal, I will always encourage them to come and meet me in person or see a pelvic floor specialist or a physio just to check the core, because if you start working on it without knowing what you're doing, you can do damage. And what I've also found is the diastasis recti, basically, for those that don't know, is when your core muscles split, and this can happen during pregnancy or after. And sometimes it goes back together, and sometimes it doesn't. It's when the two muscle groups of the core split open. And if you do certain exercises that you're not ready for, your core is not strong enough for, you can do permanent damage. They split open, and you can be left with something that's not just physically damaging, but also I know a lot of people that have really suffered mentally, thinking that they've still got this big bulge in their core, when there can be things that can be done the right way to try and help that. So firstly, awareness of it, then making sure it's checked, and then doing the correct exercises to make it stronger and hopefully repair it to the certain extent that you can. You can work on it. Some of it is genetic as well. There's a lot of research that diastasis recti is genetic, but if you work the right way, you can help yourself with that. But the sad thing is that a lot of people really go into exercise too fast without the awareness of it, and then they need to really retrace their steps further down the line. And as if they've started from the right place, doing the right exercises, it can be totally fine, and work with it.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of pressure these days, isn't there, in social media, the kind of snap back into shape, and sometimes that pressure is put on so early that celebrities, you see them in the press, they've had a baby and 2 weeks later that they're on red carpet and that they're perfectly squeezed back in their dress. But actually it's really worth saying to people, like, you've got to take the time, make sure your pelvic floor is there before you start to exercise, and exercise gently to start with the right exercises before you kind of go for the full-on body training and try and drop a dress size. I think social media in particular has pushed this idea of snapping back too quickly.
Yes, there is a lot of that ethos, but there is far more education now thanks to social media. A lot of the accounts I follow and I'm really keen on is the pelvic floor rehab. I mean, but the thing is, I'm aware of it because I'm aware of it. Those that aren't aware of it. They see all the images and they're like, oh, how do I get like that now? So it's just educating, and it's just taking a pause. Of course you want to feel better and you want to look a certain way and you want to feel strong, but you know, slow and steady wins the race, really. And if you get injured and if you do the wrong things, you're not going to get to where you want to be. But if you do it calmly, slowly, and in the correct way, you will. I've seen it.
Yeah, you can get there. And one of the things that comes to us quite a lot is ladies telling us about postnatal incontinence, that actually this seems to be on the rise at the moment. Now, I don't know whether it's actually there are more cases of it these days or we're just talking about it more. But again, I think exercise, particularly prenatal exercise, can really help to avoid incontinence issues, can't it?
Yeah. I do think there's a lot more talk about it, which is great because we're opening up issues that people thought, you know, behind closed doors, like, oh gosh, this is happening to me, I'm the only one. So it's amazing that people are talking about it. The same with pelvic floor, the same, all these issues that we, like years ago, it was, you felt on your own doing it, feeling it. Now that's opening up the conversation, which I think is great because that's how education works. But incontinence, yeah, there's a lot you can do prior to having your like through pregnancy and beyond. I mean, I get a lot of girls postnatal say, I can't do a star jump, I wet myself. That's very common. But midwives often talk about, are you doing your pelvic floor exercises? And a lot of us, of course, oh, well, yeah, I do. But actually then a week later, have you done it? Probably not. A lot of that's because people are like, oh, what do I do? So people are, again, it's the term, do your pelvic floor, but no one, or kegels, whatever you want to call them, that people aren't educated enough to do. It just needs to be more of a thing. It's just, you brush your teeth, you do your kegels, you draw up through the pelvic floor, you engage your core, you engage your glute muscles. Those things will stand you in good stead. And I have some clients that go the other way. I'm doing them so much, and that's also not a good thing because muscles also need to relax. So it's really hard because you're stuck in between this, I'm doing too much, I'm doing too little, what's that happy balance? But you know what I often say is a really good trick with those is you brush your teeth twice a day. If you can associate with brushing your teeth with doing your kegels, and that is a feeling of drawing up and drawing in through the pelvic floor. And again, if anyone needs any advice on that, I can absolutely do a video or demonstrate in that. Not literally demonstrate, that's really hard to demonstrate, but you know, explain in full detail. But associating things with things really helps you to think about.
Yeah, and it builds it in as a habit to your day. If you associate it with something and do it on a regular basis, they do say to build a new habit takes 30 days. So if you get started in your sort of second trimester, you'll have it by the time your little one's born.
Yeah, and if you and I mean, one of my good friends on the podcast, and she spoke about habit stacking. And habit stacking, when you put two habits together, you're brushing your teeth as a habit, so your pelvic floor is a habit too. And I really think that helps because we've trained ourselves to brush our teeth, so train yourself to do something else at the same time. You don't even need to like pop it into your diary in any other time. So,
and that's perfect. That's exactly what we can all do, multitasking.
Right. Exactly.
I did want to ask a few of the myths of exercise and what's actually true and what's not true. I remember a few years ago, Zara Tindall getting blasted in the press for daring to get on a horse while she was pregnant. How many of the myths of particularly prenatal exercise are true and carry a risk, and which ones are just nonsense?
I say to people come to me and they say, oh, you can't run when you're pregnant. Yes, you can. If you've run before, you can run when you're pregnant. If you've got no complications and your doctor, just to be clear, if your doctor and you check with your doctor, can I work out? They've said yes, then it's okay. Any complications in terms of bleeding, pain, that's when I say, you know, the myths aren't necessarily myths. Take that on board and follow doctor's instructions always. But to say, oh, you can't run or you can't weightlift, any of that is not correct. If you've trained previously and you're feeling fit and well, pregnancy is a great time to stay strong and fit and healthy, and an ultimate time to stay strong for yourself, for your baby, for afterwards. Yeah, people are very quick to comment on what you can and can't do. It's because it's very personal. If you've had a hard pregnancy or if you feel highly anxious and you are worried, it's not going to be positive for you. It's actually not going to be a good thing. But in general, if you're fit and well and you've worked out previously, you're fine. The only things that you shouldn't be doing necessarily are contact sports where your stomach gets hit.
Yeah, yeah.
The horse thing, I mean, a horse you're not in control of. To be fair, the horse can throw you off. You're not in control of that, so I probably would steer clear of that. But again, like, I don't want to pass judgment on people.
Yeah. If you're a highly accomplished rider and you feel perfectly comfortable up there, that's your choice.
You've never ridden a bike and you get on a bike, like, I wouldn't encourage that either. You're more than likely to fall off. It's using your brain and like thinking sensibly. The other things to think about when you work out during pregnancy are just to bring it down a notch. Like, we don't need to go 100%. We don't need to take ourselves to marathon training at that point in time. It's not necessary. What are you trying to achieve? And I always say, make sure you can have a conversation while you work out, so you know your heart rate's not too high. And don't get overheated, because again, that leads to dizziness. You know, you want to keep yourself at a happy medium, and then you're fine.
And then you're fine. You can keep going. I like that advice. Find a friend and keep up a conversation. That way you can also gossip while you're
right. In my pregnancy classes, we have a good old chat while they're training.
Perfect. I've also noticed on your videos on Instagram, because you've got quite a really good Instagram account and quite a big following on there. I love the fact that you got your babies involved and got your children involved in your videos. Now, your children are a little bit older now, aren't they? They're kind of 3 to 7, which is lovely, and they're exercising alongside you. But what sort of age do you think you can bring kind of babies along to actually get started? Is it literally bring them along from the outset?
Honestly, from the outset. So I wore my babies when they were little to move, walking, doing some weights, all that thing. I got them involved straight away. Useful, very useful. Don't need to hold a dumbbell if you've got a weight on you. Then if they were happy playing, they'd watch me. And now as they're starting to get older, they join in, which is amazing.
Yeah, I loved seeing that. There's a few videos of all 3 of your children lined up beside you, and they're just doing exactly what mummy's doing. And I was like, that's perfect, because that's also family time.
It's family time, and you know what? During COVID, we did a lot more of that, because some of them were doing schooling, and there was obviously like lacking in energy at times, and it's put on some music and move your bodies. It doesn't matter. You could be dancing, you could be doing burpees, any of it, and it's something you can all do together. It doesn't require anything but yourselves, and it makes you feel better. It's something to do all together, and it's good for you.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's it. Exercising as a family is actually a lovely thing to do. We tend to dance around our living room like nutters. Fortunately, we don't have too many neighbours, so we can turn the volume up. But it always makes us laugh, and it always brings us together, and it gets them off their iPads. Mine are.
Copy me and see me filming on a tablet, so then they get their tablets in front and they press record and they're filming themselves, which I think is really cute.
Oh, I love that. Well, it's been absolutely fascinating actually to talk to you and find out a little bit more about pre and postnatal training, and it's sort of inspired me. I have been sitting here quietly doing some of my pelvic floor exercises.
When anyone talks about it, they are, oh yeah, let's go. I'm doing it right
now. But one thing I'd love to know a little bit more, just your kind of hints of how to manage the motherload, because you have 3 children, your own brand, your own business, an Instagram account, the general kind of motherland, and you're also, into fitness and health and keeping yourself healthy and your nutrition up. How do you manage it all?
Like, it's hard. Like, life is hard, and there are times when you're overwhelmed by everything. You just want that bit of time for yourself to do it. And more recently than not, I am an early riser, so there's between 5 and 6. Now that the kids don't tend to get up before 6, I try and get up a few times a week, that time to work out, because it sets me up for the day. I get my body moving, and I know that if the rest of the day is nothing to do with me, it's work, it's kids, it's all that, I just give myself a bit of time. So that's really important to me. That it does set me off for the day. The Instagram thing is really up to the notch, because I love sharing tips and advice, but it's another thing to add to the workload. So I try and do that probably late at night. I just kind of have bits of time in the day where I can try and focus and plan. I also plan ahead, so I know. So if I've got my early morning workout, the day is for work, stroke kids, and then evening admin and that kind of thing. So if I plan like that, I know that bits can get into their sections, and that's how I found it works. And then at the weekend, my My husband's great at the weekend. Saturday morning, I know I get my long run in, and he knows that's really important to me. And that also helps me get through the week. I know, like, if it's been stressful, I've got my Saturday morning coming. So it is a juggle, and it is hard. And there are times when it feels completely overwhelming. I've got to do this, and then add in all the kids' parties, the presents, the school admin, the this, that, the other. But it's full and it's good full. So it's about appreciating that and knowing, you know, for instance, if I can't get up 5 because I've had a late night because I've been doing admin, it's okay. It's not going to change my life. And maybe I'll get 10 minutes in. And that's good because I know 10 minutes will still make me feel energized. So cut the expectation a bit.
Yeah.
Plan if I can. And just carve out bits of time for yourself, because I think that's important. We get consumed by it. Work is consuming, family life is consuming, admin is consuming. I know that a run on a Saturday will set me up for a good weekend, so that's kind of a non-negotiable.
Yeah, I like that. Having a non-negotiable in there is well worth it, and then kind of building your plan into a kind of habit forming, so you know when it should and shouldn't. And I love that last one. Just also be flexible and kind of adapt as and when you need to.
Yeah, things come up. You know what? You could be planned for something one day, and then you have to go pick up a kid from school because they're ill. So back in the day, that used to throw me. I used to be, how am I going to do stuff if that was my time? But actually, like, this is life, and if you get stressed by the things that come up like that, it's only detrimental to yourself. So I feel like flexibility is something I've definitely learned over the last few years.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good one. I find that as well. I mean, I run Mama Bamboo, and the amount of times one of the kids is sick or something comes out of the woodwork, and I have to just reschedule everything and kind of push a load of meetings off and say, well, you know what, we don't do brain surgery, so it's okay to reschedule.
And people understand, and I do also think COVID's made us think that as well. We've had to learn to adjust and be flexible and know that life isn't always as it's planned.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, well, it has been absolutely lovely to talk to you, Emma, and some really good hints. And I will add on your website address to the end of this for everyone to be able to go and have a look at your online library of courses and see whether they would like any personal training in this area. But I think just a last note, it really is worth thinking about looking into your pre and postnatal personal training, finding some space for yourselves, ladies, and just re-engaging with your body and feeling strong. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.